All right, let's go ahead and get started. Hi, my name is Ellen Rayner, and I'm on the board of directors for Tahoe Silicon Mountain, and I'd like to welcome you to Mountain Minds Monday. Tahoe Silicon Mountain is a nonprofit here in Truckee that's been around for a little over 10 years. In addition to our flagship program, which is a monthly speaker series called Mountain Minds Monday, which is where you are right now, we also do a First Friday at 4, which we expect to be starting up again in the fall, which is an entrepreneurs roundtable, and a few annual events. And we're excited we're getting started on the planning for a pitch camp and pitch showcase, and then back to having a startup weekend as well. So we do meet for Mountain Minds Monday on the second Monday of the month, every month. We're still meeting virtually for now, but you can go ahead and put it on your calendar. You can expect to find us on July 12th at 5 p.m. or follow up and look at the YouTube channel where you can see it after the fact if it happens to be a super nice day and you don't join live. So the best way to stay informed is to join our email newsletter, and you can do that by looking at our online page, TahoeSiliconMountain.com, or joining our Facebook group. And you can also look at the archives of our Mountain Minds Mondays on the YouTube channel. We do have a suggested donation of $5 for our monthly event, and the best way to do that is just go to TahoeSiliconMountain.com, and in the upper right is a donate button. And we do have some overhead needs even while we're virtual, because we are an official 501c3 and have bookkeeping and tax filings, various technology subscriptions, etc. So we do have an all volunteer board. These are pictures of the 5 of us, and we're always looking for more members, both for the board and also volunteers for helping us put on our monthly events. It's also made possible through our longtime sponsors. So our longtime gold sponsor, Holland & Hart, is our longest sponsor. They're a law firm with offices based in Reno. Holland & Hart strives to lead their profession by giving the highest level of service and loyalty to their clients by forging a team of lawyers, paralegals, staff, and other professionals whose work is infused with their values. The founder's philosophy was simple: keep going up, and if you get stuck, there's always another route to the top. This is where the spirit of the firm's pioneering and innovation began. So that's our gold sponsor, Holland & Hart. We have 2 silver sponsors. Mobo Law is another law firm. They're a full-service law firm that was started in Truckee. Mobo Law provides excellent representation in an approachable, responsive environment with a human touch. The firm is comprised of attorneys and support staff with integrity and a solid work ethic, providing exceptional work that truly benefits their clients. They love their work and it shows. And Bare Knuckle is probably how you learned about our event tonight. Bare Knuckle's been a silver sponsor with us for 2 years now. They're a branding and marketing company and actually made a presentation at Mountain Minds Monday a few months ago. They're based in Reno, and they help companies develop a brand strategy that packs a punch. Bare Knuckle gives you the tools to pull your vision together with an unstoppable brand with a plan. When your business and your branding are aligned, miracles happen. We also have quite a few community partners: Nevada County Tech Connection, Tahoe Truckee Media, the Truckee Tahoe Airport, Lyft Workspace, which is where we're broadcasting from today, and the Truckee Chamber of Commerce. You too can become a sponsor. Just email us at sponsorship@TahoeSiliconMountain.com, or follow that link, bit.ly sponsor MMM, and that is case sensitive. Another way to support Tahoe Silicon Mountain is if you are doing Amazon shopping, you can sign up with an Amazon Smile account. It doesn't change what you spend with Amazon, it just sends a percentage back to us. And so you can find Tahoe Silicon Mountain as one of the members of the Smile program, and you can make us the nonprofit of your choice for that. Under your Amazon account, you just ask to donate and choose your charity. And then there's you can go to a link that's smile.amazon.com thereafter when you're doing your shopping. just showing you the clicks of where this all happens so you can find it. Okay, well, moving on to the main event for tonight. So for those of you who may not have read the press release or need a little reminder, tonight's event, Truckee Sanitation District, the past, present, and future. And what we asked was, do you ever wonder what lies underneath the town of Truckee other than rock and the occasional opium cell? According to the Truckee Sanitary District, there are over 300 miles of sewer pipes and 44 lift stations that protect the public health and environment of our mountain community. So we have several members of the team here to join us and talk about that today. And Blake, are you guys going to introduce yourselves, or you want a little bit of a bio here too?
Feel free to give the bio now. Sure.
Okay, great. So the general manager, chief engineer of the Truckee Sanitary District is Blake Tresan. I think we also have on the phone with us Kellen, Babb, Diane, Piccioli, and Vanessa Vindel. I should have asked for pronunciation. Disease ran rampant at the end of the 19th century in Truckee due to poor sanitation. Now, thanks to the efforts of TSD, Truckee has a modern waste collection system that helps to preserve the public health and environment. The TSD team will present on the history, current operations, and future challenges associated with this essential local utility provider. Tresan has been with TSD since 2002, holds a master's in civil and environmental engineering from UC Davis. Babb has worked for TSD for 13 years and holds state certifications in wastewater collection systems maintenance. And Piccioli and Vindel have worked for TSD for 3 and 5 years, respectively. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Blake. And in the meantime, feel free to email info@topofsiliconmountain.com with questions that we can ask for you at the end. Or if you ask in the YouTube comments, I'll be monitoring those to ask those questions at the end as well. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and let Blake take over.
Great. Thanks, Ellen. Thanks, Dave, Dean, the rest of the Tahoe Mountain, Silicon Mountain group for reaching out to TSD for the presentation. You know, when operated correctly, sewer agencies typically fly under the radar. People flush and pretty much want to forget about it. We have definitely a different perspective here. We take great pride in the work we do, protecting the public health and the environment of our community. And we're always excited to share what we do with the public. So thanks again for inviting us to present to you. I hope that you and everybody else who listens to this presentation finds it both informative and entertaining. I'm going to jump to the PowerPoint slide presentation here. Oop, I'm way back in it. I apologize. I'm getting all sorts of sneak previews. I forgot to reset it. Okay, so here we go. So these are our presenters. You gave a brief outline on them. If you ever see these folks out in the street, say hi to them, thank them for the hard work they do. We're going to give some history on TSD. We got a long history here. Kellen and Diane's going to give us that presentation, followed by Kellen, who's going to talk about all the sewer infrastructure, all the pipes in the ground and pump stations that convey our wastewater in a safe and sanitary method, as well as how we operate and maintain them. I'm going to touch on some engineering issues, a little bit about our TSD finances. Vanessa's going to jump in and talk about education outreach and what you can do individually to make the sewer system work better, hit on the future challenges, and then hopefully open it up for some questions if there's any out there. So with that, I'm going to jump into the TSD history with Diane Piccioli.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Blake. Go to the next slide, please. Truckee has a rich history of immigrants passing through on their way to California and the gold country. But some people who were passing through decided, you know, we like it here and we're going to stay. So by the time the Transcontinental Railroad came through in 1868, Truckee was a thriving small community with its industries such as lumber and ice. So through 1860 to the early 1900s, there were no sewer lines as we have today. So outhouses were built and they were used as toilets. And because of the severe winters, the residencies wanted to build the outhouses close to their houses so that they could have easy access during the winter. But come summer, there was those horrid smells from the outhouses, as well as disease-ridden flying flies all over the place. So there would be bouts of diseases every so often, such as scarlet fever, smallpox, diphtheria, typhoid fever. Such was the case in 1903 when there was a health emergency because there was an outbreak of typhoid fever. And the residents were required to clean refuse away from all their residencies, as well as clean their outhouses. And if they didn't, they were prosecuted. As a result of this, in 1904, the Truckee Sewers Committee was formed, and it was for the sole purpose of putting in a sewer line. So funds were raised, materials were purchased, and construction was begun. And by 1905, there was 2,450 feet of sewer lines laid and a cesspool partially completed, and they ran out of money. So in November 1905, the community leaders got together and drew a petition to start a government agency for the sole purpose of bringing sewer to the community of Truckee. And in 1906, the voters agreed to a vote of 60 to 17, and thus April 2nd, 1906, the Truckee Sanitary District was born. And this gave the opportunity for the Truckees, for the district to get money from procure funds from bonds, and they were able to complete the line. In July 1909, the completion included 2 sewer lines on either side of the railroad tracks, and they flowed into each of their own cesspools, as well as 17,000 feet of clay pipes, and they were hooked to 110 buildings. So fast forward to 1918, and a Mr. Gillespie, who is the director of the State Board of Health, authored a paper on the feasibility of cleanup of the Truckee River. And in it, he pinpointed the areas that were polluting the river, and one of them was the district, with their cesspools draining into the Truckee River. Next slide, please. And we have some pictures here of what Truckee looked like at the time. This is Trout Creek. This is where the current post office is. And in your right-hand corner is a little footbridge, and that's where your I-80 is right now. But right there is an outhouse, and as you can see, it's going right over the creek, and human waste just going directly into the creek. This is where the 1903 outbreak originated from for the typhoid fever. Next, please. And here you have a cesspool, and you could see the drainage coming down into the river, the outlet, so right into the river there. Next picture, please. And this is the other side of the track with the cesspool, and Mount Rose is in the background. And they say Trout Creek is on the right. So that is also draining into the Trout Creek area, which goes into the Truckee River. Next slide, please. And here is the 3rd sewer line. It was actually the Southern Pacific sewer line from their depot, and it was just a pipe sending raw sewage right into the Truckee River. And the final one. And here we have the river you could see down below on the right, and along it there are outhouses plopped along, and this added to the pollution of the Truckee River. So Mr. Gillespie made his recommendations, and they were to remove the outhouses, build additional sewer lines, and connect all these places to the sewer lines, as well as the Southern Pacific sewer lines. So next one, please. Excellent. So the district did make the improvements, and one of them was conveying wastewater over the Truckee River instead of into the Truckee River. and they formed these sewer ponds, which you can see from the 267 bypass bridge, which all the waste came to and was processed and percolated and filtered back in. So that was the improvements that the district made through the 1970s. So in the next slide, we're going to look at how the district did expand. In 1909 to 1950, the district just serviced the downtown community commercial area. And then in 1950, there was an expansion to the Gateway area. And this is your area where Safeway and the hospital and the Truckee High School is. And then comes the 1960s, and testing was done on Donner Lake, and it was found to have a high coliform count, which is an indicator of fecal matter. And this is mainly due to cabins that were built along the lake with septic tanks, and the septic tanks were failing. So at the urging of the county, the district went into that area and laid sewer lines, and the septic tanks, most of the septic tanks were moved out. Then came the 1970s, and there was further expansion. This is your Tahoe Donner area, and then below Tahoe Donner was the North Star area. And also in the 1970s, the Tahoe Truckee Sanitation Agency was formed as a result of, due to the Porter Cologne Water Quality Control Act that mandated that all sewage be exported from the Lake Tahoe Basin. So the plant was built, and by 1978, it was open. So from that point on, the North Tahoe PUD, the Tahoe City BUD, the Alpine Springs County Water District, the Olympic Valley Public Service District, formerly known as Squaw Valley, and the Truckee Sanitary District conveyed their wastewater directly to the TTSA water reclamation plant. And we got out of the business of processing the sewage, and instead we collected and conveyed the raw sewage to the reclamation plant. Next one, please. In the 1980s, we extended our service to the Glenshire area. And finally, in the 2000, as the area was expanding, there was growth in the Grays Crossing, Old Greenwood, and Martis Valley area. And that was in the 2000s. Now I'm going to pass this on to Kellen, who will talk about the operations end of our district and what we do.
Thank you, Diane. So my name is Kellen. I'm going to be talking about the assets and operation and maintenance of Truckee Sanitary District. Truckee Sanitary District, next slide, operates in 39 square miles area, and we cross 2 county lines. Our main way of collecting the sewer is by gravity and lift stations or pump stations. As you can imagine, we have very mountainous area here, so we have wide variety of areas that we actually got the pump out of. Next slide. So we have 215 miles of gravity pipe. Gravity is obviously our easiest way to collect, so that's what we try to do. And that services 13,132 laterals, so that's your homes and businesses that we're collecting out of. When we can't use the gravity, we need to be pumping. So we have 44 lift stations, and those actually pump into what are called force mains, and we have 16 miles of force main. So with gravity, sewer tends to be cleaner and flow better if it's a minimum of 2% grade, which makes it so that all the solids actually flow very nicely down the pipe and don't start clogging the pipes specifically. So when it's not, we go to other lift stations. So next slide, please. So this is just an example for everybody. So the picture on your left, this is your laterals where you're going to be hooking up out of. Picture on the left is a business or housing complex. And as you see, the pipes running down the middle and the pipes that tee off, they're going to be your sewer laterals from different buildings or different areas. The picture on the right is your typical house that you normally to see. As you see from the graphic, everything comes down and there's a pipe down below. You will see a pipe sticking out of the ground at the foundation of the house, and that is called your house clean out. From there, keep flowing down towards our main line, and if you see the pipe sticking out, that's called your power line clean out. TSC owns and operates the main lines and up to your property line clean out. It is very important for people that live here, homeowners or businesses, to make sure that we have access to this clean outs for your ability to clean your pipes and for ours. Because if there's a problem, we're going to need to be able to get it in there and undo the blockage and everything else. So from there, it goes down the mains and we start flowing towards the plant. Next slide, please. So these are some examples of our pump stations. You'll see these all over the place, whether it's Don Lake, Caledon, or we have them in Old Greenwood, all the other pretty much neighborhoods that we have to pump out of. These are just examples. This is what you see from the top. There's a lot more to this that you cannot see. And next slide, we will actually show you some of it. So picture on the right, this is basically the process that it comes into. So you're sure you can see water coming in the lower right area, and that's where this water is going into this giant tank. And inside these tanks, we have monitoring systems that will tell the pumps when to kick on, when to kick off, and so that it's pumping out, and we pump it all the way until we can have gravity take over. The picture on the top left, this is called a Bypassport. What this is that pressurized main that we're pumping through. If there's a problem, we have to be able to access it and move around it. And so you see the two risers coming up on the outsides. And what happens is if we have an issue, we can actually hook hoses up to that and just have an above ground pipe, and so we can get in there and fix the problem. It's pretty cool stuff. It's really bad if one of these plugs up, so we have to have a way to actually bypass that.
Hey,
Next
Kellen,
slide, please. Yes.
your audio is a little bit of staticky. Is anybody else getting static from Kellen's? I'm not sure whether you're possibly, if your hands are on your board or something, just try and hold as still as you can. I'm afraid maybe it's picking up something else, but hopefully that'll help. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have it.
It's
Okay. Next, please.
next slide.
Yes, please. So now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. Sometimes things get caught in your pipes and block your sewer lines. And so when that happens, we actually have to bring out specialized equipment. We also use this equipment for cleaning and other things. Next slide, please. So this is one of our main workhorses. This is called a tractor truck. As you can see on the front, there's a big hose reel. That's 1-inch hose reel that we use to clean the sewer lines. Going up and above it is a giant pipe, and this truck is basically a giant vacuum. We use these trucks to clean your wet wells, to hydro excavate, which we'll go over in a little bit, and also in a case of emergency, then we need to be sucking out of a manhole, which we hope never happens. So I'll talk a little bit more about it here in a second. Next slide, please. So how this works is, on the hose, we have specially designed nozzles. And these nozzles are built to shoot the hose out the pipe. And then once we get to the end, we'll be pulling it back to clean. This nozzle that you're seeing right here in the video, this is a new specialized nozzle. You can see that the water is shooting out of these jets at a 15-degree angle. This is what we're going to use to actually propel the hose from the bottom lower manhole up to the top manhole. And so right now it'll be shooting out and going your 200, 300, 400 feet that we need to. You can see it's actually moving a lot of water, pushing a lot of it. Once we get to the end, we'll shut it down and let it reset for a second. And then when we restart it, you'll see that a different jet shoot out. And what it's doing is coming more of a straight angle at the pipe and a little bit back. So as we're pulling back, it's going to be cleaning this pipe and just getting all the grit and everything else out of there. If you look at the picture on the top right, this is an example of stuff that we'll be using this nozzle on. These are grease bars. Grease is very bad for our system. It collects. It might be liquid when you put it down your drain, but once it settles and cools down, you start building up grease. So on the top picture, you can see the grease. The bottom picture is right after we cleaned it, and all the grease is gone.
Oh boy, I think we lost Kellen. Oh, Kellen, you're muted.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost you for a second. Continue.
We lost you for a second.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm back. Okay, so we also do our pipes through a camera system, and this is how we know if it needs to be cleaned or if we have any defects. Can you go to the next slide, please? What this is a CCTV trucks and CCTV cameras, which is closed circuit televising. This is one of our employees lowering a camera. And what we're doing is we're going through the pipe and we're actually looking for these problems. We'll have some pictures of the cameras so we can tell you, but we are recording all this and documenting the observations that we have, whether it's a defect or not, and it all goes into a computer system and rates the pipe so that further down the road, we can age these pipes and determine when they're going to need to be replaced. Next slide, please. So here are some pictures of our cameras. What you're seeing here, the big head with the lights on it, these heads actually rotate. And we can rotate, zoom, look at anything we need to be looking at. We have a couple different kinds of transporters, which is the way that we actually move the camera through the line. And so we have tracks and wheels that are our primary ones. The top cameras, they're actually both the same camera. But what this allows is these have 3 cameras on one system. We have a reverse camera, our front-facing camera, the swivel head, and we have the one that you see in the top right picture. That is a separate camera that attaches to this. We use this to look up at your laterals up to the property line so that we're looking for defects and spots that normally you don't get to look at. So it's a very nice piece of equipment, and it is definitely finding a lot of problems that we've been fixing very diligently. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's some examples. This pipe has a lot of issues with it. We got some grease and just some deterioration. As you can see, it looks like the pipe is rusting. That's caused by H2S, which is a gas that comes from the breakdown of organic matter. So what we're doing, we're making these observations, and then we'll deal with after it with some construction or lining of the pipe. Next slide, please. So here's another problem that we have here in Truckee. Well, most people do. It's I&I inflow and infiltration. And what's happening is we're getting groundwater coming into the lines. And that is bad because we do not need to be pumping fresh water, or the treatment plant does not need to be processing fresh water. It's wasted energy and can lead to further problems with erosion of dirt around where this water is coming in. Next slide, please. So here's one of our other major problems that we have here is roots. Obviously, we live in a very mountainous region with lots of trees and shrubs. Roots, especially during drought years, will find their way into your sewer pipes. They're looking for water any way they can. Every single pipe, they will come in, especially cracks or anything else and defects in pipes, but they just come in your joints. So when this happens, we can actually go in with one of those cleaning trucks and cut these out before we repair them, just to make sure the flow keeps going. Next slide. So here's an example of a root ball that we just found this last weekend. As you can see, this can be very destructive to your pipes and cause a lot of problems that could back up. We got very lucky that we did not have an issue, but that obviously is a very extreme case of roots. That thing was 8-10 feet long. It was crazy. So when we do have these problems and we find these, we can actually locate the exact position of these defects and problems, and then we send out the crew, which is a construction crew. Next slide, please. So here's an example of one of our repairs that we had to do. As you can see, the yellow pipe, that is a natural gas pipe. Looks like a 4-inch main. And what happened is they came through and hit our pipe and didn't know it. So you can see the gray pipe on the outside with the green PVC. That is actually our repair. We use couplings to repair that pipe and make it so it's level so that the sewage flows nice and smoothly through. When we get to problems like this, we bring in the hydro truck, vacuum. We actually do a hydro excavation. So what we're doing is we're sucking the dirt while we're spraying high pressure water to break up the dirt so we're not going to hit anything and damage any other surfaces. The other long pole on the side of the trench is that's shoring. We have very coarse sand and red rock here in Truckee, and it's very unstable dirt. So we always have to secure our digs to make sure that we're not going to get any classes in it. So next slide, please. So that's how we make sure that we deal with our problems. This is another system that we use. This system is what we use to actually monitor our lift stations. It's called a SCADA system. And what this does, it tells us if anything is going wrong with our systems, like power outages to one of our lift stations, or if it's not pumping right, we'll get high pump calls. Anything that can happen is monitored right here. And we have someone on call 24/7, always man this so that we know if something happens, we're going to come straight out and we're going to fix the problem. And speaking of problems, we actually have some emergency equipment. Next slide. So we always want to be prepared for anything that can happen. These are just a few of our emergency equipment that we use. The top left is what we use if we have a blockage or a problem from manhole to manhole in our gravity lines. It's actually just a giant lay flat hose that we're just going to pump straight out of the manhole and into the next one down, so we're isolating an entire section. Top right is the tubing and piping that I was talking about early on with Bypassport. So what we can do is actually hook up these hoses and totally bisect an entire run so that we can get in there and repair the forcing. And like I said, it just becomes a pipe on top of the ground. Bottom left, these are bypass pumps. We will be using these if a system or a pump station goes down. And what it basically does is we just take out the entire pump station at this point and be manually pumping it straight back into those bypass ports. So if we have a system that goes down, we can take care of that as well. Also, bottom right, these are our generators. All of our main stations have their own generators built in, but we always want to make sure that we have backup on everything just to make sure nothing goes wrong. Next slide, please. So as I said, we try to be prepared as much as possible. This is the example. We do this every year. We are constantly training to make sure that if anything possibly happens, we're going to be responding very quickly. This is one of our trainings. In this training, we are bypassing the entire system. It's basically the pump and the lay flat hose. So like I said, we want to make sure that no matter what happens, we will always be able to respond in a timely manner. And our main goal is always just keep sewage into the pipes. So we will be responding very quickly, and yeah, we will be there to fix it. I think with that, I'm done. I'll pass on to Blake.
Thanks, Kellen. How's my audio? It's okay, great. So there's a lot of engineering issues that we could chat with you about, but in the name of time, I wanted to share some of the stuff we do regarding flow monitoring. So we've got, as Kellen indicated, over 300 miles of pipe out there, and we need to know what's happening in that system. And so we've got over 23 flow metering sites distributed at key junctions in the agency to be able to track things. And the data we get is conveyed. We have each of these metering sites is a specially designed flume so that if you put an ultrasonic measuring device that measures the depth of the water, it bounces off the top of the water, and we know how deep it would be if there were no water in there. It gives us the depth of the water, and that correlates to a specific flow. And so this data is real time. And so with that information, we can get flow data like this. This is a day in Truckee. Sewer flows follow a traditional diurnal pattern. In the middle of the night, there's not much activity, not much water, wastewater being generated at a home. And you have typically a strong peak in flow in the morning as people wake up and shower and get ready to go to work. During the day, flows go down a little bit. People use the bathrooms, but they're at work. And then they come home in the evening and they prepare dinner. They do the dishes, they do their laundry. And you see another large peak in the afternoon, and flows again decrease after everybody goes off to bed again. And so this is called a diurnal flow pattern. And so this would be one day in Truckee. The next slide here actually shows a month of daily flow diurnal patterns for our 4 main sewer drainage basins: Tahoe Donner, the Donner Lake area, Glenshire, and Martis Valley. We have metering devices at the bottom of each of those sheds. And it's kind of interesting because you can see different patterns in the different neighborhoods that we have. In Tahoe Donner, Donner Lake, you see July 4th is in the middle of this. You see a substantial increase in the flows here the week preceding July 4th to July 4th, maybe a little less so at Donner Lake, but in Glenshire, where you have basically a full-time residents living in that neighborhood, you really see a much smaller increase in flows from before July 4th and to the July 4th weekend. And then out in the Martis Valley, which includes your North Star Community Services District and the North Star Resort, again, you see a large fluctuation. So we have the resolution to be able to look at each individual drainage basis within our area, but we can also aggregate this data so that you sum all of them up to get a total flow for the district, and we'll sum it up to get a total flow per day. And if you look at a total year of data on daily flows, you see, once again, a bunch of spikes, but these aren't diurnal spikes. All the spikes you see in this over the year are weekends. If you counted them up, you'd see 52 little spikes here. Some of them are bigger spikes and some of them are smaller. Again, talking about the kind of patterns that we see in occupancy in our community. This big spike in the middle, that's July 4th weekend. The next weekend after, a lot fewer people come up, but in summer you see fairly substantial spikes from midweek, the trough, to the weekend, the spike at the top. And you can see that in the summertime, you have even the midweek flows, the bottom of those are quite a bit higher than what we see in the late fall with the bottoms of the troughs here, and the weekends are smaller also. This is the shoulder season. Labor Day is the big last weekend, big holiday before we go into the kind of shoulder season. You can see again the big increase in people that start to show up as the ski season starts up and through Christmas and New Year's. And again, the large spikes we see with the weekend visitors through the ski season, particularly the Martin Luther King weekend in January and President's Day weekend in February. The reason you see such a high amount of flow up here goes back to what Kellen talked about. That's the infiltration and inflow. Once that snow starts to melt in the spring, and this is kind of the April-May time period, that raises groundwater levels, and that little teeny stream that you saw in the picture that Kellen showed of our CCTV camera in the pipe actually starts flowing more aggressively as the head of water over that increases. And so we see that water get into our system. And so what you're not seeing here is a lot of occupancy, but basically a infiltration of groundwater. And then as the groundwater recedes, the flows quickly go back down, and we don't see much infiltration and inflow in our system. So this was 2019, which was a pretty big winter, and you had a fairly large 18-19 winter and a fairly high amount of I&I there. I'm going to go to 2020, which was a unique year in many ways. It started off very similar to 2019. You can see how repeatable this is with the weekend spikes and the midweek flows, almost the same in 2020 as in 2019. But then along comes this point here. What happened here was the pandemic was declared. COVID hit, the pandemic was declared, the ski resorts all closed, and the shelter in place order was issued by the state. And you see for about a month period there's no weekend spikes. Everybody left and stayed away and didn't come up. And then after about a month of that, we started to see some brave souls coming up to their second homes and visiting, but not very big quantities of people. And then as we moved later into May, and this is the Memorial Day weekend, and really into the summer, we saw a change. Not only were people starting to come up on the weekends, but they were staying. These midweek troughs in these charts actually start to exceed what we'd seen in previous years, such that as we went into the summer, we saw substantially more people up here midweek than we did in previous years. So we went from this situation here where nobody was coming up to now more people coming up than historically. And that really is pronounced as we went into the fall. Schools didn't start up. The kids were just being educated remotely. And so why not live in your mountain home as opposed to down in the city where you had so much more close contact with folks. And so we saw a lot more people up here, and we've provided this data to the town of Truckee and the police department who are interested in evacuation needs. It was a bad fire season as well. And so people were talking about, there being double, triple, quadruple the number of folks in Truckee. And by actually providing them with this sewer data, they could actually get a much better idea of how many folks really were up here. The sewer flows actually provide a very good metric for occupancy. And so all the way through into December, we had, still high occupancy. I'm going to go now to 2020 or 2021. So 2021, we had, again, people, pretty good visitation in at the ski resorts. They were back open. People were coming up on the weekends. We still had higher than normal midweek flow, so more people up here than previous years until we hit spring break. I think this is when a lot of the youth sports were able to start back up again. And a lot of our second homeowners went back to their primary residences right here in April and left our community. And again, minor visitation on the weekends. And now we're moving back into the summer, and you can see we had a very large amount of people showed up for Memorial Day this weekend, larger than previous past 2 years. And we're going to be tracking this closely as we move into the summer to see whether we're going to see a lot of people moving up again full-time through the summer, or whether it's going to be more like a pre-pandemic 2019 year. Yet to be told, but we're tracking this and again, sharing this with a lot of the other member agencies up here who find this information important for them and their services. So this is a slightly different representation of the same data. This is a year of flow. This has got about a dozen years of flow. But what really stands out are these gigantic spikes here. And these are large rain events that happened in 2017, early in the 2017 season. These were FEMA related events. And these are actually the events that dictate the size of our sewer has to be, because we can't just size it for normal flow. We need to keep the sewer in the pipes, even under events like this. And we did a hydraulic analysis, and it talked about having to upsize a lot of facilities to account for large storms like this. And our team got together, and this is kind of something that I'm proud of. Our agency showed some entrepreneurial spirit, which I think is consistent with hopefully the Tahoe Silicon group. And we said, where is this water coming from? If you look at some other data that we collect, this is our lift station wet well levels. So this is a wet well level. It increases until it reaches a certain point. A float switch is triggered and the pump pumps the water down and the water comes back up like this. This is precipitation on the bottom. And you can see that you had a very slow rate of increase in that wet well because the sewer flows weren't high until it started to rain. And then instantly you saw the wet well going up and down, such that where it took several days per pump cycle, previously we were getting multiple pump cycles in a day when it rained. And as soon as the rainstorm ended, the flows went down. And so we said, where is this water coming from? This isn't rising groundwater that's getting into the buried pipes. This is getting in at the surface of the system. It's getting in where these manholes are at. And so we smoke test these to find out where the leaks are. And when we smoke tested it, we found that it's leaking between the frame and the cover. This manhole frame cover sits inside this frame. We pay extra money to get manhole frames that have O-rings integrated into their covers so that we get a watertight seal, and we'd always assume that they were watertight. But when we smoke tested it, we found that almost all of our manholes leaked. And I'm going to show you the smoke testing, and you'll see it come out. But what we came up with was a product that didn't previously exist, which is a kind of petroleum-based product that is used for another purpose in the industry, but not for this one, and works really well. And we reached out to the manufacturer and are now actually in filed a patent with them, and are now in have a royalty agreement for the sale of this product, which is going to hit the markets in September. But I'm going to show you this video. You can see the smoke exiting this manhole. And so wherever smoke comes out is where water is going to get in if it's raining. And so he's going to apply this product around the manhole. I'm going to see if I can speed this up a little bit. And he just goes around it, and then he puts the manhole frame back on, and it pretty much seals up. There's still a little over here, but he didn't get that side. So he's going to open that back up and apply this product back on. There's all sorts of products on the market for reducing I&I because of the problems it causes with possible spills there, and nothing's getting out. And this product lasts until you open it again. And we typically don't open manholes sometimes for 1 or 2 years at a time. And so you can see a picture over here again of how he's applying it. And so pretty exciting to see this product get put on the streets. Again, it's going to reduce a lot of water getting into the system, saving agencies from having to upsize their facilities, causing spills, or handle the operating costs of pumping and treating all the surface water that gets into the system that's not supposed to get in there. So that's just one engineering item that I thought you guys would appreciate. All this work comes at a cost, and so I always like to share a little bit about our finances. Our revenues come from 2 main sources. One is we get a portion of property taxes, and 2, we charge user fees to our customers. This is coming right out of our fiscal year 22 budget that's going to our board on Thursday. So for the coming year, we're anticipating approximately $11 million in revenues, and that goes out to pay for salaries and many salary-related items. Our services we provide are very labor-intensive, doing that TVing, cleaning, and construction work. And so with a little bit of difference in money, that actually helps offset the fact that we also have capital improvements that we have to do above and beyond operations. And the capital revenue side comes from connection fees for new people connecting to the system, and that helps pay for a portion of our capital budget. In general, our revenues and expenses are pretty much equal to each other. And as part of our budgeting process, we do a 20-year window looking forward. You don't want to look down at your feet or you'll trip in the hole right in front of you. And so these bar charts here represent the target reserves that we're supposed to keep. The blue line is our operating budget. The green bars represent our capital needs. And you can see our system, despite the district being over 100 years old, a lot of our system didn't go into the 60s, 70s, and 80s and 2000s. And the system is in really good shape. But if you do projections on their engineered life, we anticipate starting to see a lot of that system starting to deteriorate. And so we need to be prepared to have the funds necessary to repair those and prevent them from failing and causing problems. The purple represents some emergency contingency money, and then the orange line is our projected actual revenue. So this is our target reserves, and this is what our actual reserves are. This indicates that we would need to do a rate increase in about 10 years from now, a 5-year rate increase at about 7% to kind of stay on target for having sufficient revenues. This also assumes that property taxes, which you saw were one of the large revenue streams for the district, would increase at approximately 3% per year. We also run another scenario that says, what if we don't raise any rates and property taxes only go up at 2% per year? this is what you would see. We'd be okay for the next few years, but we would quickly start to fall below our target reserves. And within 15 years, we'd have no money whatsoever. And so it's important that we do these funding forecasts. So I always like to share a little bit about finances as well. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Vanessa to talk about our public education and outreach.
Hi there, Vanessa speaking. Here at the district, we believe in being good stewards of the environment by keeping our lakes and rivers clean. District employees take time to participate in Truckee community events. This includes Big Truck Day, Earth Day, and Truckee River Day. Unfortunately, due to COVID circumstances, we've been not able to participate in these community events. We had to find more creative ways this year to either electronically communicate with our customers or send newsletters showing how to educate our customers through bigger subdivisions such as Tahoe Donner. As we're shifting to opening up, we do hope that we can catch all of you at one of our future events such as Earth Day or Truckee River Day, and hopefully that will take place in 2022. And next slide, please. And why public outreach? Over the recent years, we formed a public outreach and education team to educate the public on sewer-related issues that cause harm to the environment. To your left, think before you flush. Flushable wipes clog pipes. Although marketing on wipes indicates that wipes are flushable, they are in fact not. Over time, flushable wipes will cause blockages in the sewer system because they do not break down the same as toilet paper. In the middle picture, you'll see two different water bottles. One is a water bottle full of flushable wipes, and then the other one to the right is a water bottle full of toilet paper. And as you can see, the one to the left is completely full of just paper that isn't breaking down whatsoever. And then to the right, it's toilet paper. And you can see that the water is not super clear, but it's at least biodegradable and the toilet paper is being broken down. And then to our top right corner, we have cease the grease. FOG stands for fats, oils, and grease. We like to educate residents to scrape your pots, pans, and plates before washing. We have a few different promotional items that we like to hand out at our events, such as grease squeegees, stickers, and fat trappers. Fat trappers are a small plastic container with a disposable bag that can be placed next to or underneath your sink. You'll see that to the right picture, your far right. And then the paper bag container goes inside the black case. So we're hoping to hand those out probably next year at our 2022 events. So the person pours the fats, oils, and grease into the bag of the container, seals the bag when it's full of fog, and then throws it in the garbage, not down the drain. And then also we've discovered that backups and blockages lead to overflows that can potentially harm our fragile environment. So if you do, in case, see any sewage that's flowing onto the ground, make sure to call TSD. We do have an emergency line available 24 hours. And then overflows have a detrimental effect on the environment. And clogs can also not only result in our expenses, but result in unnecessary expenses to homeowners as well. Next. And then here we have our proposed Donner Lake signage. These signs will be hung on district lift stations located all throughout Tahoe Donner, Donner Lake. With more and more people fleeing to our area during the pandemic, we just like to encourage the public to keep up with green practices and encourage those that are here, as well as new people that keep coming to our area. So Donner Lake, keep it clean. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Vanessa. So before we go to question and answers, just a couple of our future challenges at the agency. One is aging assets. As I indicated, our system is still relatively new. We're just starting to enter into the curve where we'll start to see deterioration in our facilities. And so really being on the ball to make sure that we don't suffer any spills or interruptions in providing our services due to deteriorating assets. Succession planning is also a key future challenge. Getting the right people to do this is critical, and there's all sorts of challenges in our community now to finding good employees and keeping them here. And so That's going to be a significant challenge. Climate change will also present some interesting challenges as it warms up and perhaps we move from more of a snow-based climate to a rainfall-based climate, how that may impact our sewer system, different trees with perhaps more aggressive root systems, greater production of hydrogen sulfide and deterioration of the system with the warmer temperatures as well. And then one that's not on here is there's still several thousand homes in the local Truckee area that are still served by septic systems. And so helping those folks get converted over to the sewer system in a cost-effective way so that those septic systems don't eventually end up presenting public health or environmental issues. And so with that, hopefully we still have some time left to answer questions if there are any.
Well, thank you so much, Blake. We have had some questions come in by email and some by YouTube. And so the first question, does TSD do any COVID-19 monitoring of wastewater streams? And I guess by extension, also anything about prescription drugs in the wastewater or anything like that?
Thanks, Ellen. So I'll hit the prescription drugs one first. We do some of our public education and outreach regarding that as well. That's not something that people should be putting down the drain. A lot of the chemicals that are in the medicines pass right through the treatment process and end up in the receiving water, which is a problem. And so we try and educate people to also hold on to those drugs. And often the town of Truckee and the police department have drug take back days. So anybody who's listening to that, hold on to them, keep your eyes on the paper, go to our website, we'll post it as well, and bring your prescription drugs there. As far as COVID testing, there has been wastewater epidemiology work done. Apparently you can detect the presence of the coronavirus in the wastewater. And there are a number of wastewater treatment facilities throughout the United States that have been monitoring this. We have not done that up here. I looked into it and there just didn't seem to be a strong need for it. We were curious whether or not we could possibly look at midweek versus weekend COVID levels and see if not only did the increase in people coming up not necessarily result in, were they bringing more COVID with them? So, but it's still kind of a little bit in its nascent stage, and we have not to date done any COVID testing.
So one of the last things that you mentioned at the end of your presentation was that there are still people on septic in Truckee, and we did have a question come in pointing out that some of our older working class neighborhoods in Truckee, like Sierra Meadows and Prosser Lakeview, don't have sewer. And so there's a bit more to the question, but it's sort of what's the plan there? How are we going to take care of our fellow citizens in those neighborhoods?
No, that's a great question. And really there's three ways that we can end up bringing sewer to these communities. One is that they come to us and say they want it. And unfortunately, it's expensive. And so there hasn't been a lot of impetus where, as we indicated, Diane talked about our history, bringing sewer to Donner Lake area and Glenshire. They came because of other reasons, because the systems were causing public health and environmental issues. And so we keep in close contact with the Lahontan Regional Water Quality Control Board to see if the septic systems are causing problems to the environment. We also keep in touch with both Placer County and Nevada County's environmental health departments to see if there's any concerns with them regarding public health issues with the septic systems. Septic is still a perfectly viable means of managing wastewater unless those problems arise. It's interesting that the majority of the folks that call us asking if we can bring sewer to their homes into these communities that are currently served by septic aren't calling because they have failing septic systems. They're calling because they want to put a garage or on their property that currently has their leach field, or they want to add an extra bedroom to their house, but their current leach field isn't large enough to accommodate that. And so while we could bring that to them, we can't just do one house at a time. We have to do a lot of them, and many of their neighbors aren't looking to convert to the sewer system, mainly because of the cost. We keep our eyes open for grants and low interest loans. We've done some surveys, and unfortunately there's definitely a mixed bag out there in terms of the desire to convert to the sewer. So again, hopefully that helps answer the question from.
Great, thank you. Next question, what's the greatest crisis you faced and how did you handle it?
The greatest crisis we faced, we didn't get into, I would say it was a large blockage in our sewer line that serves Glenshire. Glenshire is actually a very unique system. Hopefully the folks that are listening in know kind of where Glenshire is, and our sewer line serves all of Glenshire, and the sewer line runs down Glenshire Drive, across the Glenshire Bridge, then back up a hill, down Glenshire Drive, and eventually goes off underneath the railroad tracks into the TTSA treatment plant. And it's a gigantic inverted siphon system. And we have, I could get into, this is kind of a nerdy engineering element, but that inverted siphon system is challenging because the flows in that inverted siphon are very slow and all the solids settle out. And we had tanks at the bottom of those inverted siphons to flush out any solids that settled at the bottom. But what we didn't realize is that the stuff was settling out way up in those pipelines, high in the inverted siphon, where the velocity went to zero. And we had a major blockage there. And luckily all our crews were trained properly. We had to do a bypass that went through the night and unclog that. And since then, we've changed our cleaning process for these inverted siphons and actually given some presentations in our industry to educate others about the concerns and ways of managing long and large inverted siphons.
So we have a pretty technical audience, and so I'm curious if there's any exciting technical innovations that are being developed in the industry that you have your eye on for the future.
Well, like I said, we were kind of pioneering that one item, which is very exciting to us, with that product that's going to prevent I&I from getting through the manhole frame and cover. Beyond that, our industry, the sewer industry, has been around for a long, long time. We've moved to a lot of GIS in our system and mapping, and with our SCADA and telemetry, getting that real-time data has been critical. I'm trying to think if there's something, Kellen demonstrated a pretty nifty, that jetter device that we use for cleaning it. That was something very new that we've picked up on. The old system that had a fixed angle on the jet, that when you ran it up the pipe and then you pulled it back with the same jet angle, creates huge differential pressure in that pipe. You could see how much kind of water was being pushed backwards. That also creates a vacuum on the upstream side and a positive pressure on the downstream side. And we found that we were actually generating enough pressure to go up people's laterals and cause their toilets to burp and burble. And so that nozzle technology has improved quite a bit. Not only are they designed to not cause those blowouts in people's homes, but they also have much better machining inside the nozzles that reduce the friction so that we can run at lower pressures and less water and still get the same amount of force to remove the grease and other debris in the pipes. So there's a couple examples.
Cool.
I don't know if anybody else has anything else they can think of off the top of their head. I'm seeing no.
So let's see. Had a comment just wanting to say how much they appreciate the competence of this group. So thank you for that. Proud to have you here in Truckee. And then there was a question, having worked as a wastewater, is the 2080 rule still in place? And maybe if you could just say what that rule is and is it still in place?
I assume they're saying 20% of the problems take 80% of your time. Is that? I wish they had elaborated a little bit more on that, if that's what they mean.
That's head infiltration.
I'm not positive if they type anything more in on that. Definitely also appreciate the public outreach. I I think just yesterday I heard the don't flush wipes on the radio. So that's great that it's getting out there. Anything else that are the worst offenders beyond what we saw on that slide? I think I remember one time saying the stickers on fruit.
Right, our crews, Kellen hopefully will chime in on this. He's out in the field every day. Eggshells, kitty litter are a real problem. Dental floss can bind up on pumps. Say it again.
I actually just found somebody flushed one of the plastic baggies that you put your dog poop in. I found that in the sewer today. It's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
But feminine hygiene products.
No, you don't want to flush anything besides toilet paper and your usual down the toilet. Anything that you can think of that can cause a problem will cause a problem. What you will have are some little burrs on your pipes. Nothing's perfect, and anything like that can catch. Hair. I have to tell my wife all the time, do not put hair down the drain, because once something catches, other things start building up on it. And so the more and more times that you have that down there, the likelihood of you actually having a stoppage because of that increases dramatically.
Good. Well, I think we've exhausted the main questions that came in. This was such an informative presentation, and definitely had people commenting on appreciating the year-long graphs and seeing the changes year over year. So that was super helpful too. And so I think with that, we're going to wrap up today's presentation. I want to thank our audience for joining us as well, and remind everyone that we're always the second Monday of the month for Mountain Minds Monday. Sign up for our YouTube channel and it will alert you when we go live. Sign up for our newsletter and we'll give you a heads up when it's time for the next presentation. So thank you all. I'm going to stop the recording now.